Good morning, good afternoon, buenos días, buenas tardes. Yo soy Beatriz Vieira, la directora ejecutiva de Women's Foundation California. Hello, everyone. Good morning. We're so excited to be together in community today. I am Bia Vieira with the Women's Foundation California, and we are really thrilled and so happy to be in community today. It's wonderful to see so many folks joining us. And if at all possible, we have this as a meeting setting, the Zoom setting as a meeting, so we can, if you can be on camera so we can see you, it would be really, really wonderful. But I do understand that not everybody is able to do that. So please do what you need to do to be present here today. Well, I am super, and look, we have family with us. It's really wonderful. And so welcome to our quarterly Culture Change Fund meeting. It's also March, which is Feminist March Madness here. So we're really happy to have a lot of our folks joining us. And we're also welcoming the California Gender Justice Funders Network to this call, because we've had such an interest, not only, of course, in Black Feminist Futures, Paris Hatcher, and the organization and the work, but also thinking about culture, narrative power as a strategy for moving folks, for really, at the moment that we're living, the moment that we are experiencing a lot of narratives that are against our communities, who are violent, and we want to make sure that we have strategies, that we are in community to be prepared again for 2024 as we were in 2020, which is when the Culture Change Fund started. And we are here to support each other. We are here to learn strategies. And since the Culture Change Fund now is in its 4th year, we've had a lot of really wonderful learnings, a lot of experimentation. And one of our really wonderful partners has been Black Feminist Futures. I'm very excited to introduce Paris Hatcher, who is the founder and executive director of Black Feminist Future, who has also an incredible history as a queer Black woman, as an advocate, as a fierce person in this work for over 20 years. Paris, welcome. And I want to invite you to share a little bit about Black Feminist Future, but also about, in particular, about culture change and narrative power, why that's an important strategy for you all, and also leading into the very successful campaign that you did in 2022. In partnership also with Vision First, which is one of our grant partners as well with the Culture Change Fund. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Bia, for such a warm welcome. Good afternoon, y'all. Good morning. I'm Paris Hatcher. Our pronouns are she, her, and hers. I am with Black Feminist Future. I'm the founder and executive director, and I'm coming to y'all from Atlanta, Georgia, where it is 1 o'clock and so wonderfully sunny. I think that we may be done with winter. It may be spring. I'm very excited for that. So a little bit about us, Black Feminist Future, and I'm going to be sharing my slides in a bit, but I wanted to just, look at y'all's faces and engage with y'all. We are turning 10 years old this year. So we started in 2014. We started really with the backdrop of the murder of Mike Brown and other people killed by the police, and really we're thinking around this question around, or not even question, around challenging the idea that racial justice could just be the single solution for Black communities, that would be the silver bullet, that would fix everything. And knowing that, in fact, that we need to really be thinking around Black feminist solutions, that we need to be thinking around the intersections of our, not just our identities, but how those identities are really sites of where power and oppression impact our lives, impact the way that we're able to access power, be able to access the ballot box, buy groceries, build the families that we want, live in safe communities. And so hence, that's how Black Feminist Future was born. I come out of the reproductive justice movement, and I still do a considerable amount of work in that movement. It has been a really incredible space of feminist activism for the last 30 years. This is also the 30th year celebration of the reproductive justice movement. And we really see that Black feminism is a framework. Really, we talk about it as a blueprint and an ideology. It really helps us understand how power or systems of oppression work, how people are most impacted by those systems, and what it's going to really take for us to be free. And frameworks like reproductive justice are in relationship to Black feminism. So I like to think that Black feminism is the umbrella, and the way that you see Black feminisms live through our movements is like the movement or the framework of reproductive justice, is how you animate Black feminism. So I've learned so much around my Black feminist journey through my active love, participation, and fight in the RJ movement. So with that in mind, with developing the work of Black Feminist Future, was really deeply thinking around, well, what's really needed at this time? So we've identified and developed what we call our power building strategy. And the three pillars of our power building strategy are these. So number one is that organizing. And I don't think I have to tell y'all the importance of organizing. So building an active, educated, conscious base that is able to take action on issues in their personal lives, so for themselves, for their families, and for their communities. So we see it as like a three ring of engagement. For most of our members, we are a member-centered organization. The first time that they are encountering Black feminisms is generally around some consciousness raising in their own personal lives. So we see that as a really important site, but don't stop there. It's not just around how you individually feel. We also know that it's around interrupting what we see in our families, as well as interrupting what we see in the broader society. So organizing. Through that, we have a vibrant membership that's national, multi-gender, it's multi-generational. We are across the country, and at this time we have over 1,000 members, which we really are excited and proud about. They are interested in a variety of issues, and our members are organized into hives. Our second piece of our power building strategy is our movement building. We understand that in order to win, we need other Black feminist and feminist organizations working with us. We cannot do this alone. The work is too big to do alone. And also we need co-conspirators that can really take this on together. In order to have a feminist future, a left feminist future, which we understand as really the true way to defeat authoritarianism and fascism, is a strong left feminist movement. So our movement building works to build just that, to build and bring folks who have oftentimes not been centered or seen within feminist movements, whether that be trans communities, queer communities, disability justice communities, working class grassroots communities. That is the root of our base, as well as the root of our members, of our partners that we do our movement building work. And the third pillar of our power building strategy is our narrative power work. And our narrative power work is the work that we do to shift culture. I think many of you know and understand the role that Black folks, in particular Black women, queer and trans people, have in shifting and shaping culture. At the same time, we know that our communities have also been targeted with mis and disinformation and the rise of the manosphere. So in particular, that are enforcing and forwarding dangerous, toxic, and oftentimes violent narratives around what women should be doing, what gender is, what type of relationships are valid, et cetera. And we've seen an explosion of this space, this manosphere. So much so that when we start to even Google feminisms on YouTube, what you'll see is so many people, in particular men's reactions to feminisms versus feminists talking about what it really is. So a lot of mis and disinformation. We see our work centered really advancing narrative power, meaning we want to see our people, our base, as trusted messengers. We also want to disrupt the culture of misogynoir, which we know is deadly. It advances dangerous stereotypes and a culture of violence in which our bodies, our choices, and our options become very, very limited and start to permeate not just the cultural realm, but public policy, norms, and ways of being. So we talk about how we want to replace the culture of misogynoir, which is the hatred of Black women and girls, and replace it with the culture of Black feminism. So that is our culture change work, and it lives underneath our power building umbrella. So to talk a little bit about what that looks like now, I'll talk about our Abortion is Freedom campaign. I'm going to share my screen to cue us up. I think I'm in the right place. Yeah. Okay. So as I mentioned about Black Feminist Future, this is our 10th year. The theme of our 10th year is magnitude and bond, which is pulled from the Gwendolyn Brooks poem, where she shares that, we are each other's harvest, we are each other's magnitude and bond. And we really see that as a way of how we are nurturing and building with each other. And as a political hub that focuses on the dynamic possibilities of galvanizing the social and political power of Black women and girls and gender expansive people towards leadership and liberation, we were, I think, just like all of you, when the decision to overturn Roe was looming, were very much so like, what is our opportunity? And also, what is our mandate? What felt very clear were several things. One is that this was not a time for us to back away from being clear and out loud around abortion, that we wanted to really state and position that abortion should be rooted in a value, which is freedom, right? We wanted to enforce values-based messaging. And we wanted to enforce and put in the center Black women, girls, and gender expansive people as the norm. So not forgot about, maybe we'll add at the end, but central to the fight to securing abortion access, as well as central to who needs to have access to abortion as well. Our first play, or our first attempt to do this, was back in 2021. So we launched our Abortion is Freedom campaign as this values-based narrative to center our base. The goals and the objectives were to change the way that people think rather than feel around abortion. So again, using values-based language to expose weaponized narratives and reclaim power over them, center Black communities and our values in the abortion discourse, frame abortion as essential to freedom, and offer direct actions that folks can take to change the narrative. So again, for some context, I was a part of the reproductive justice movement when in 2008, the antis made a really focused, targeted attack. And it also happened in California, that was saying the most dangerous place in the womb is a Black woman's womb. Black children are endangered species. It was really targeting and weaponizing narratives around abortion access and targeting our community. We saw this as an opportunity to see us as, again, trusted messengers, to change how people think rather than they feel around abortion, and to link it with key values that Black folks have around freedom and liberation. So instead of being talked about, to be talked with and to be centered, not as a problem, but as a solution. So this is some of the signage. This is us in front of, there was a rally at the White House. We squatted up with our members in DC to really have a presence there. So Black feminists squat up for abortion access. And through that, we also were able to increase our membership. In 2022, through our partnership with Vision First, who was an incredible partner to us, they saw us push out this abortion is freedom messaging in our campaign. They came to us and said, hey, love what y'all are doing. Y'all are already moving with something that's really working. Can we partner together to amplify it? So through their partnership, we were able to do wheat pasting maps. We were able to do video ads, social ads that were also a way to build our own list building, because we also wanted to give people an opportunity to participate and be a part of us being just talked to. You can be with us. So you can see in this first ad that was wheat pasted, abortion is community care, liberation is now, take action. This was pasted all throughout, not just Atlanta, but areas throughout Georgia as well. These were GIFs that were made that had, folks from Black culture, Saucy Santana, New York, who is just iconic. We had a variety of these that were used as a way to, again, center our culture in a way to talk to people around abortion access. I'm going to stop sharing so I can also queue up an ad that we created as well. I think I got lost. One moment. There we go. Okay.
My body, my business, my freedom. You heard it. My body, my business, my freedom. Abortion bans are oppressive as hell. Freedom to choose is freedom. Period. Miss me with that power trip. Visit blackfeministfuture.org/abortion to learn more about abortion care. My body, my business, my freedom.
So we were able to work with our partners at Vision First, who connected us to AB Partners. And we really share with them, this is what our vision is. This is what we want to see. We want to see folks, doing hair on the front porch, again, relying heavily on our culture, to talk about something that's important, like abortion access, the dailiness of it. Doing your hair is daily. Abortion access is daily. We want to see Black folks in our environment talking about something, not making it into it's just something else, right? Like it's a part of our everyday life. We are having abortions. That's just the reality of it. And again, Vision First was such a strong partner with us because they really understood. It wasn't convincing why this should matter, why this should be important. In 2023, we had our next iteration of this campaign. Knowing that abortion wins when it's on the ballot, we partnered with our good friends, New Voices for Reproductive Justice, and the Ohio Women's Alliance for something that was called the Black Blitz campaign. So we worked with them around designing graphics, messaging that centered, again, what we do best, Black folks in the conversation around abortion. So we worked with a variety of graphic design. We helped design t-shirt. Our Narrative Power team was able to provide that type of support. And we also are looking to provide that type of support in Florida, in Colorado, and in Nebraska, where we see abortion is going to be on the ballot. And again, Black communities deserve to see messengers, graphics, ads that center them in this conversation, to have them actively vote yes to enshrine abortion access in their state. So this is just more ways that folks can stay connected with us in reference to our work. We are continuing to roll out our Abortion is Freedom campaign. This was just the first stage, and I can share around what that next stage is going to look like, but I'll pause for now.
Thank you so much, Paris. It's such an exciting campaign. And I'm wondering if you can talk a little bit about how you decided on those images. You said you wanted very particular things. You had a vision for it, but also how did Vision First support you in figuring out the message testing, and who were you trying to to reach with the messages.
That's really great. So, vision first, again, I would say that a key takeaway, and I think definitely for funder committees, funder communities to understand, is that our partnerships are key, right? Our relationships are key. Vision First came to us and said, you know what y'all have? We love it. So, there wasn't message testing on our end. We tested it within our membership and our base, like, what do y'all think with that? But there wasn't a larger firm that was a part of the testing. They said, we can do a couple things. One, we'll provide you resources for you to be able to roll out this programming. Two, we'll be a good partner with you to help project manage the project, right? To know all the different components. And three, we can make suggestions to different vendors that we think could be a good match for you and what you are trying to do. In particular, a vendor that has expertise with working and centering Black communities. So we were able to work with a team that was mostly Black and people of color, that the thing that we were trying to do wasn't outside the realm or the reach. We talked about, we wanted to have it shot in Atlanta, and we gave suggestions like, okay, where they shot this is literally like a block from my house. It's the Wren's Nest, which is like a historical place. So I think that'd be a perfect place. We wanted to talk about, again, activities that were just like the dailiness of like Black Southern life, which is a good front porch, spending time together, and also the dailiness of just doing hair, something that is community, right? We wanted to really convey community, togetherness, being together, and really thinking about the things that resonate with that, which is like a front porch, doing somebody's hair. AB did a call for models, and we told them what we wanted our models to look like. We wanted them to look like various shades of Black people, different gender expansiveness. We wanted to be different sizes of Black people. We didn't just want to have one idea, because we are different people. We also knew that we wanted to target the messaging towards our younger demographic. So I always get like the generational piece, but we were really thinking around 18 to like 35, right? And again, it's a broad, but really skewing younger, right? Because thinking that these are folks who are in a particular time in their reproductive life cycle. And Natalie, it's you. I can't say enough about you, Natalie. Natalie with Vision First. I just saw you pop on. Incredible partner. It was so great to work on this with you. So thank you. And so it was really great. It didn't take convincing on our idea. They really were like, got it. Let's go.
Thanks. And Paris, I know that that you had tremendous response. Can you talk a little bit about what you've seen in terms of the campaign and in terms of engagement and membership with Black Feminist Future?
Yeah, so I mean, I think it happened on such different levels. I think one, the folks that were even hired were like, this is like one of my favorite campaigns that I've ever done. I want to stay connected to the organization. They were like, this is different than we typically do. It felt like I'm making a difference and I'm finally seeing something that's talking to me. I think similarly, we were able to increase, we were able to have more signups of folks to our list and convert them into membership. The exacts of that, I'm not sure, but we know that it works, right? We know that when we're able to center, and not, we didn't get a lot of negativity. If it was, it wasn't like things were not destroyed. We maybe had one or two comments we would post on social, but it was something that was widely received. And I think the opportunity and the need is that we need to continue rolling out messages like this continuously. So the intention is that we want to keep it going, and we want to expand the states that we are able to do this, because we know that we have the stigma of silence and shame around abortion, and that when we first say the word, say it grounded in your values, and then have people that look like folks that you know as the messengers, that it really can start to poke more holes. So I really am excited to see this campaign to continue to go, because as you know, within the message world, we have to really continue to do forward thinking, out loud work, because we have an elected president who knows that abortion works but won't even say the word, right? Like, there's so much shame and stigma still, right? You know it wins. You know that's why people are going to turn up to the polls, and yet you refuse to say the word. So it's really going to take organizations like ours who are doing work like this to break up the silence, the shame, the stigma through ads like this. So I'm excited to continue to see us move this work in 2024 when it's so crucial.
Thank you. And Natalie, I'm wondering if you want to say a couple of words about the partnership with Black Feminist Future and Vision First.
Sure. Honestly, I think Paris said it all perfectly. But yeah, I was like, when we first got started on this campaign, as Paris said, Black Feminist Future already had this massive kind of like idea of what abortionist feminism is. I remember y'all already had like a toolkit, a messaging guide, like you knew exactly how you wanted to talk. And, the role, for those who don't know Vision First, like our role is to provide resources and communication support for reproductive rights, health, and justice campaigns. So in this particular case, it was like, well, the basis of the messaging was kind of already there. And we just, as Paris mentioned, wanted to make sure that we could get this message out to an audience that does not typically get engaged by reproductive rights, health, and justice content. So, kind of one of the first decisions that we made, and that like once I had a conversation with Black Feminist Future, I was excited about, was bringing in AB Partners, which, as Paris mentioned, is I think it's a POC owned firm, but almost everyone we work with was Black at that firm, and they were really coming through with some really amazing creative ideas based on what Black Feminist Future had already kind of created. And so like my goal, was to basically manage the process that was like the lowest lift on Black Feminist Future as possible, but also to make sure that like every single piece of content that went out in the world, whether it was the wheat pasting or the ads or the memes, was like something that Black Feminist Future would be proud of and be able to continue to share and utilize. So it was a really wonderful experience. Like, as a Black feminist myself, I was like, I was excited. I was like kind of fangirling about it, which I didn't even tell Paris, but I was at the time. But also, I think just like working with an all Black creative team and communications team, and they also had press around this as well. I think just like shows the power of like having people who are part of the communities actually putting out the content, engaging with their communities around abortion, and like kind of like flipped on its head this idea like, oh, certain audiences don't care about abortion. Like, they do. You just have to actually like talk to them, talk to us like how we talk. So I loved working with Black Feminist Future on this campaign. Just like such a real leader in how you can just talk about this issue in a relatable and approachable way that like my friends would talk about.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was really a great part. I mean, I'm like, it's a great partnership, and I'm like, just message you, Natalie, like, I want to keep going. So like, email me. Because when you have a partner that gets it, you want to just continue to do it. So I would really think around folks. I mean, there's a couple things that come to mind. I know that as funding community, that folks are concerned. There's all this, after affirmative action, the decision, folks are nervous around funding really specific work that talk to particular communities. And I think this shares, and I think many of you have examples of when we are specific and when we are not just like, let's give the money to all people. When we really get specific, it allows us to really do some successful work together. And so this should not be seen as divisive, right? This should be like, we really want to make sure that all communities are engaged in thinking around how abortion is critical and important, and especially at a time when so many of our freedoms are being attacked, right? So the things that we thought never were going to happen are happening, right? And we need every single one of our communities to be talk to, message to, and engage so that they can be a part of the fight too. So whether that is around what it means around birthing or IVF, like now people are starting to get like, oh wow, where they're attacking trans kids, they're attacking children's hair in school. It's all abound, right? And so whenever we can have a variety of different organizations who are talking to different communities, it really strengthens what democracy looks like. Because otherwise there's no one message that's going to hit for everybody.
Mhm. Thank you. And I think that's a good segue into the moment that we're in, as we are in the middle of the 2024 campaign, as we prepare for a very difficult fall and what's going to happen in 25. So I'm wondering, Paris, if you can talk a little bit about how you're thinking about your work moving forward, what's informing the work, and how can we all together be part of it in preparation for what's coming?
Yes, I know it feels like we're bracing for a storm and it's gathering strength. So I think within our organization, as I mentioned, within our power building strategy, we have a whole program called Abortion is Freedom. So one aspect is this, our culture shift work. Within the culture shift work, we are doing what you've seen with the ads, the graphics, the work, especially around the ballot initiatives, but in general, broader public education around why this is important. I think people are paying attention to it in ways never before. I've been having conversations with, you name it, just random people just out of the blue that are like, did you hear what's happening? Like my Lyft driver, this person, people are tuned in a particular way. Another thing that we're doing is that we have an initiative we've been doing for 4 years called Channel Black. We've been working with strategic communications pro and strategist Chanel Matthews, who comes in and trains, and it is a selective process. This year, we're going to do a blend of reproductive health rights and justice folks and folks who are electeds, that are going to be really focused on how to become really strong messengers and communicators around reproductive justice issues like abortion access, like IVF, like birth justice, so that we can have more communicators that are in the space who are able to communicate. And we're creating a speakers bureau so that we can have more people who are queued up to be able to talk on a variety of issues. So if it's like, I want to talk to someone who lives in a rural community, or someone who lives in a city center, or someone who's working on particular how they see this connection around birth justice, or et cetera. So we're going to be training up our next cohort of reproductive justice communicators through our Channel Black program with Chanel Matthews. I think another piece of what we're seeing is that because the future is feeling a little bit unknown, is that we're continuing to do our own training up of people as self-managed practitioners through our abortion plug program. And we see that really connected with our Abortion is Freedom work, that you may have seen an ad and then you are frustrated and then you become a member. And then from that membership, you're trained to know how to become one of our over 100 people who are around the country who provide helpful, safe, and scientific information on your pregnancy outcome. So if you're going to self-manage at home, if you need support on where to find a clinic, if you just need someone to help you figure out what you need to do. So we are extending our network of people who are able to be first. We should understand it as like, first responders around this important issue. So, and then we also are going to be launching our C4 this year, where we're going to be doing candidate scorecards with a particular focus around the shifting and building of culture, and really focusing around abortion access and other issues that we know that are very, very clearly important, that we want to have electeds be accountable to us too, right? We know that the down ballot races are going to be very critical. And so that's some of the work that we see. We really think right now it's important to create glimmers of hope for our community and ways that they can plug in, and not just hopelessness.
Thank you. That's amazing. Can you talk a little bit about the decision to do your own C4 as folks think about that for themselves, but also why it's important to have the whole constellation of options for ourselves?
Yeah, I think for me and our members, it's just been a level of frustration at, in particular, well, there's the rules and what you can talk about, what you cannot. So that's like a really big piece. And I think sometimes, there's a lot of C3s that limit what we can talk about. And I think in particular around some of the accountability that needs to happen. I see our C4 as really a revved up accountability measure, especially around some of these electeds who have made promises that have not come through on those promises. So I really see it as a way of us being able to name it, name their names, hold them accountable, say this is not what's coming up, really forcing folks to answer hard questions around the things that matter the most to us. So to me, I really think around how, from our vantage, we don't really see some of the C4s really going after the Democratic establishment in ways that we think are really important right now, that they'd much rather keep their relationship to the White House versus holding these people accountable. So for us, it really is it may not be popular, right? But we do see it as not just like saying that these people are okay and going with the status quo, but really intentional accountability and really championing those folks who are really getting it right and want to run on a Black feminist platform and understanding that that is something that they can win with. And so it's as much accountability as it is, I think, sowing seeds for hope for the types of elected officials that we really are going to need to right this ship.
Wow, that's wonderful because we do see the lack of a pipeline for leadership as, at the national level in terms of particular parties. So that's, I think, a brilliant strategy of really thinking about the pipeline at all levels in terms of community members, in terms of folks who are going to be part of decision making, the folks that are going to be part of narrative making, but also policy making. So I think that's really, really amazing. And as we're in a room full of also advocates and funders, what are the things that you think are very important for us, right? In the short term, to think about narrative power, and in the long term, to think about culture change that you think we should be seeding right now so that we're ready for the next, 10 to 20 years?
I mean, I think that narrative and culture shift is going to be the key to securing and then also cementing the change and the progress that we want to see. So much so that sometimes the policy has a lot to catch up with in reference to where we are culturally, right? I think one of the things for us as practitioners, as funders, is to know that because it can be a little bit more nebulous, that you are going, some of and I think this is something that Tracy Sturdivant had said, that some of these prove to us what this looks like. The analytics are not going to tell the story, right? But the ways that we're going to be able to understand the story is by having more stories. And so it really is going to require funding at the win level, right? And really thinking around in 25 years, what are the narratives that we really want to see deeply embedded in the society? And that are more vision facing. So right now, because we're so in our heels, but what is that 25-year message that we're going to plant right now that we're going to see bloom in a generation? And I think that's one of the ways that we're going to be able to see it. So how are we going to make people really that freedom and liberation and safety, security and hope are fundamental values that this country must have? How do we start to plant them culturally and with narrative? And knowing that it will take a generation to really see that, and then that it will transform society. So I'm we need folks who really can get behind funding big vision, big dreams, and not be locked into this metric needs to equal X, Y, and Z, and be really creative around how we can share what success looks like. I think we have a lot of examples of what success looks like, even if it didn't mean that the policy itself changed. Oftentimes it becomes a backlash, right? The cultural and the narrative changed so much that the policy became regressive. And I think maybe that's a way that we could start to understand our success, that people started talking about freedom and liberation so much that people got scared and were like, no, we're going to actually take away freedoms, right? And so I think we have to be creative around how we see it, because I do see that. I see that after 2020, there's no doubt a seed was planted in the country, and then people absolutely have been reactive and responding, and we've been seeing such backsliding. So fund big, fund the ideas, fund with 25 years in mind.
Thank you. We do have a question here that says, with everything that's going on nationwide in the election year, how does the organization determine where and when to focus your campaigns on specific state or local ballot issues? And do you spread one national level through local chapters, or start on the ground with each campaign?
Yeah, that's a really great question. So you're right. Not yet. We're not in the place where we can be everywhere, but we are in the decision
soon.
around, yes, but soon. And we're deciding, where does it make sense for us to be able to show up? I think one of the things is that we do it through our partnerships. Do we have strong partners that are in a place? Do we also have members that are in the place that also can help benefit and move the work as well? And for us, it's not just like the areas that are going to win. Like, so for example, many people have written off Florida and Texas. I don't think we can write those areas off. Those places deserve messages and campaigns too, right? And it has to really make sense with, okay, do we have the organizational partners there that we can work with that are like, yes, this is going to really work with us, and that could be helpful to us. And then also we want to, and are our members overlaid? And are there places where there's a strategic opportunity? So for example, like Nebraska, Nebraska doesn't have a huge Black community, but it does have a vibrant Black community, and they have an RJ organization. This is an opportunity to say, hey, let's be in conversation. Y'all still matter, right? Like, the messaging should still also show up. So we are at this time also creating our own rubric around, where can we show up? There's all these races, there's all these pieces, there's all these places that we could be if folks ask us to be, but how can we really be strategic? And one of the things is we think around where our members are, where do we have strategic partnerships, and where do we see a unique opportunity, whether it be a race that's really interesting that we're watching and looking at. Is there a particular dynamic that we think makes something right? So we are, that's something that we're building out and we'll have in place by April.
Wow. And there's a question here about, are you accepting new participants? If they have somebody in mind, that'd be great voice for your transnational mapping project. How do they get in touch with you?
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
Yes. So one of the things that we have is this project called Okra. It's a Black feminist African Black transnational mapping project. If you know of any organizations that you think would be great, it's called Okra, the Okra Collaborative. Please feel free to email me. What's unique around them is that also most of these folks are in election season themselves and are facing similar realities. So whether it's an attack on bodily autonomy, the rise of fascism and authoritarianism in their country, the impact of climate change, this is a learning community where we are really thinking, how can we build power together? So yes, please, I'll drop, Raven, if you can drop my email, please do so, and please connect.
Yeah. 2024 is the year where there are elections in countries that have the majority of the population. So the United States, Mexico, and India. And those are all countries that are experiencing, well, we know about the US, they're experiencing, the rise of authoritarianism and the coming up of fascism. So it's a really, I am so in all of you really thinking about across the thinking about the world, because we do know the anti-gender and all of the thing, the rise of authoritarianism is really a coordinated effort internationally. So it is really an opportunity for us to really think within our, you know, in the United States, but also beyond, and what we can learn from each other. Any other questions that folks have for Paris? Well, I know I have one question that I would like you to talk a little bit about, which is internally at Black Feminist Futures. How do you think about the coordination, the integration between the movement building and the power and narrative building as you are developing strategies? Because I think that sometimes folks can see those strategies as very separate from each other. But how internally you think about it, you talk about it, you live with it.
That's such a good question to consider. I think internally, it's very easy within your organization to start to silo itself and be like, you know, how do we talk to each other? I think one is that we've put everybody in one department. Like, it's like, well, it's your power building. You're one department, you have different directors, but you're going to all hang out together as a way for there to be more intentional conversation. How does our work overlap? Who are we talking to? How are we integrating the things that we're learning? One of the things our movement building team does is that we have these spaces called innovation labs. And our innovation labs are spaces where we bring people together. So for example, we did one around COVID where we brought together a variety of different leaders. And our unique ad is that it's oftentimes people who are never talking to each other because we know that our work is so siloed. We bring them together to be able to have these conversations around how is COVID affecting your community. We also have done one around patriarchal violence. We're getting ready to do one around trans liberation. A lot of the learning that we do within our movement labs end up permeating our narrative power work. So for example, we did a disability justice one, and we were able, from that space, people were able to create a working definition around what's Black feminist disability justice, what are some guidance with some information that then ends up living within how we do our work within the organization. So what are new principles that we start to imbue inside the organization, as well as what's new knowledge that we want to disperse to the broader movement, right? So knowledge production is a really important feminist a feminist tool, right? We produce new ways of knowing and understanding that we want the world to be able to be organized around, right? And so I think some of the ways that we've seen that most recently is, like, for example, mutual aid is not new, but I think that it is a feminist way of knowing, and people being able to understand, like, oh, I've been a part of mutual aid, or even talking about collective care. That's different types of knowledge production that feminists have not just been producing with their minds, but also with their bodies and their doing. So I see our work as being really critical in doing that knowledge production work. Our movement building work is doing that work, but it's also, how do we integrate it with the way that we do our organizing? How do we integrate it with the way that we also do our narrative power work? And so for us, when we say, you know, we didn't work with a firm to test an idea, it really is tested through these different mechanisms, which could be a conversation with members, a conversation with organizational partners. Where is this landing with you, so that when we do land on a message, it has a solid, it can land more solidly and grounded. And the next thing that I just wanted to add is that, Rocio, it's so good to see you. And we have been able to be beneficiaries of the Culture Change Fund because Rocio introduced us to Bia, and that collaboration was really fantastic. So we actually have had the funding to do our Abortion is Freedom work this year and last year because of this connection. And so, and I've known Rocio as just a incredible leader, just like a warrior in the reproductive justice space. And so to have her in this space at Free has been so fantastic. And for her to connect us with Bia, who now is, you know, the CEO of the foundation, has been really exciting. So I just wanted to lift up that connection and just really hone for, again, it's not new for y'all, but our relationships are truly are critical in doing this work.
Thank you so much, Paris. And Rocio, do you want to unmute yourself and just say hello to everybody since you've been recognized?
Yes, hello everyone. I am Rocio Cordoba with Funders for Reproductive Equity, and so proud to be managing partner with the Culture Change Fund, and just incredibly inspired as always by your work, Paris, and everything that Black Feminist Future is doing. It's incredibly both relevant and visionary at the same time, and I'm in constant awe. So thank you for really illuminating how all of these strategies come together and to give us so much hope for where we can go with all of this work, and in particular with the narrative change work.
Yeah. Thanks, Rocio. Gracias. Yeah, Rocio has been an incredible partner in this work. I'm very proud to work with her. And I do want to share a little context for folks. So the Culture Change Fund we started conversations about it after Trump was elected. And it really came together as a group of advocates and funders were thinking about how were we going to respond to what was coming, which we saw what came. And narrative power and culture change, as Paris said, was a place where we thought, okay, we have to have all these strategies for policy and advocacy, but we have to add a narrative and culture strategy to our toolboxes. And about 11 donors and 4 anchor partners who were working on issues of reproductive rights, freedom, and gender justice in the United States came together to think about how could we support a cohort or a number of organizations nationally and in 3 states at the time, which is still the 3 states that we support, which is California, Georgia, and Michigan, to think about the long term. And the goal was to raise $10 million and be able to resource organizations that were either ready to do this work or getting ready, and to also to make sure that we were developing infrastructure, narrative power infrastructure, and cultural power infrastructure in the gender justice, reproductive justice movements in the United States, because we knew then, as we know now, that this is a very long-term journey that we're on together. And I will say we've been able to raise the $10 million. We are now, thinking about the next iteration of the fund, because we know that there has been incredible learnings and incredible experimentation, as you heard today, and we need more. So this is a moment that in community, and I think that what Paris has just described is that relationships, as we know, are, what keeps us connected, is what keeps the work moving. So we want to continue to grow this community. We want to continue to deepen our relationships. And we want to invite folks who are not yet part of this community to join us. And I want to give Paris the opportunity to talk about, right before we close, as a call to action for Black Feminist Future, for us. What do you kind of leave? Sorry, my accent keeps showing up. What do you leave us with, Paris?
Yeah, I mean, this year is important. And again, I think around how if we could have planted a 25-year seed, in 1999 for this moment, where we would be. But now is the moment, right? We can start to plant those seeds. So really, how can we really invest deeper? We do not receive this is really our only dedicated funding support around culture change work that we have. And so imagine if we were to have received, we could receive more, right? So we welcome that. Join us. There's so much more that we want to do that we can do. So I really think around how critical it is. It's not around, it's critical because everything could be terrible. It's critical because it's a really important intervention point. And we know, and we're learning so much around culture change, around narrative power. Get in now, invest big. And Black Feminist Future is an incredible partner. So we look forward to, we're a national organization. We do have key area focuses. Totally would love to be in conversation with y'all. And for folks who are interested, but yeah, this is the time to go big. And to really go for it. And I want to go for it with y'all. So thanks for having me. I really do appreciate it. And I hope this was helpful. And I look forward to see y'all on the field. Let's leave it on the dance floor, y'all.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody. Muchísimas gracias a todos. Eso ha sido una charla muy buena. We are so very happy to see you. And thank you so much, Paris. Thank you so much for the Black Feminist Future team, for all the work that you're doing, and for your amazing partnership. Thank you all.
Thank you. Take care, everyone.